There's my audience. Okay. So this is my persuasive speech. Just go ahead and get it started. War, firefights, Taliban, ISIS, Afghanistan, Iraq, death, chaos, combat. These are things that very few Americans have to endure on a day-to-day basis. But for 18 continuous years, our country's been at war, and our veterans are seeing the effects of that war. After almost 2 decades, more and more veterans are entering civilian life and having to deal with the after effects of PTSD, depression, numbness, anger, guilt. These few words are something that many veterans feel on a day-to-day basis. And they come home and they're privileged enough to have the VA take care of them with their mental health, their physical health. But the problem is the VA is a department of the federal government, and being a part of the federal government, it's bound by federal laws, and their employees and their doctors are bound by federal laws. One law in particular that I'm talking about is medicinal marijuana. The veteran suicide rate in this country is astronomical, and a lot of that has to do with the over-medication of our veterans that are coming home having to deal with chronic pain, PTSD, and other ailments such as those. So what do we do? How do we help these veterans that are coming home? I served as an infantryman with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Afghanistan. And when I first got there as a brand new private, it was pretty obvious. There were some people around me, my peers and my superiors, that were suffering from PTSD. But it was unspoken of. Nobody wanted to be deemed combat ineffective. Nobody wanted to be taken away from their platoon because they were dealing with these things. And the same happened when I got to my second duty station in Fort Lewis, Washington. By this point, I had soldiers of my own, and I led them through a tour in Afghanistan. And when I came back, I noticed that a lot of them were displaying a lot of the symptoms that myself and some of my other NCOs and officers were also dealing with. So when you get home, the VA doctors, they're quick to throw a lot of different pharmaceuticals at you. And there's a ton of pharmaceutical companies out there with a ton of different medications to serve, depression, anxiety, and all these other ailments. So today, my hope is that I can inform you on the statistics surrounding PTSD within our veteran community, veteran suicide rates, and how marijuana can help these veterans reintegrate back into civilian life and carry on just like everybody else. So moving forward, suicide rates has been a big topic. If you have social media, you may have seen something about 22 veterans a day. A military publication called Stars and Stripes recently put out a new study, and the suicide rate has lowered from 22 veterans a day to 17 a day. And although, that's a big improvement, 17 veterans a day committing suicide partially because of PTSD is 17 too many. And the over-medicating of our veterans plays a huge part in that. A gentleman by the name of Dr. David A. Hagstrom, who was the core investigator for the VA Center for Health Information and Communication, conducted a study and found that veterans on average are prescribed 40 medications a year. The research I did, I couldn't find out exactly if that was 40 different medications a year, or they were re-prescribed the same medications and got it filled 40 times throughout the year. The civilian average per capita is about 12, so that just kind of puts it into play for you a little bit. As a visual aid, I just kind of wanted to make this a little personal and show you what the VA provides me on a day-to-day basis. And let's see if you can see this here. That is, those are medications that I'm supposed to take on a daily basis. I say supposed to, and that's because I forget from time to time. But I have, this one is for nightmares. This one's for anxiety, depression. I have more for migraines, for seizures related to a TBI, and a couple other ones for chronic pain, and the list goes on. And so what do we do about this? There's been multiple studies, especially recently, with the health benefits associated with medical marijuana for veterans. One of those studies was conducted by a gentleman named Dr. Peter Grinspoon of Harvard, and he released the article on health.harvard.edu, and he was quoted as saying that he found that medical marijuana helped veterans reintegrate back into normal life. They were able to resume their day-to-day activities that were usually hampered by PTSD with small doses of medical marijuana. A study conducted by the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine found that medical marijuana was effective in treating a number of different serious ailments commonly found in the files of our combat veterans coming home. To name a few, and they're all pretty big ones, but chronic pain, social anxiety, seizures, PTSD symptoms, and funnily enough, alcoholism and opioid addiction were also treated with medical marijuana. I myself, I'm a recovering alcoholic. As of December 3rd, it will be 3 years since my last drink, and I can personally say that medical marijuana has helped me with all of these things. I by no means am a stoner or even a social smoker. I'm a father of 3 children. I'm a full-time student. That's just not really how I operate. But it is something that has definitely helped my life and helped me move forward, along with other things such as therapy and some other things also. CNN.com did an interview with a local California man who was a machine gunner in Afghanistan in the Marines, a gentleman by the name of Aaron Newsom. And Newsom was quoted as saying that with medical marijuana, I had great success. I was able to regulate myself, get a control on my hypervigilance, and get off all those other pills. So in conclusion, I think it's pretty safe to say that although not great for everybody, medicinal marijuana has made huge strides in the lives of many veterans. I myself still talk to a lot of my friends who I served with, and a lot of them went down the same path that I went down: self-medicating, isolation, avoiding certain things, no longer taking joy or finding joy in things that we used to do. And quite a few of my friends and fellow veterans from the military have found that medicinal marijuana has restored their quality of life. Our men and women of our armed forces go overseas to protect us. And you don't have to agree with the wars, but I think, and that's your opinion, but I think, and it's my opinion, that when our men and women come home from fighting overseas, that they should be taken care of. And lately our country's been falling short of that and just kind of throwing pharmaceuticals at our men and women, and none of them really seem to be doing a whole lot of good, which is why you see the veteran suicide rate to what it is. So it's my opinion that medical marijuana should be legalized for veterans, and it should be legal for the VA. Despite being a branch of the federal government, the VA and their doctors should be allowed to prescribe medicinal marijuana to our veterans. Thank you.